Hello everyone. These slides will help you in writing your scope and limitation of the study. So this is for research methods, thesis writing, and project study. Okay, let's start with defining what scope is in thesis writing. So scope refers to how far the research area has explored and the parameters included in the study. Basically, the coverage of your research. It is important to define the scope so that any result, any finding will be in the context of the scope that you have stated right from the beginning. So, some of the content of the scope. Okay, so you can start with a brief statement of the general purpose of the study, the subject matter and topic studied and discussed, the locale of the study where the data were gathered, the population from which the respondents were selected, the period of the study, which includes time, either in months or years, when the data were gathered. So when you're defining the scope, this can be in 1 to 2 paragraphs and simply containing these items. So if you're going to write the scope, some of the sentences that you'd include here was probably already mentioned in the introduction, but here it is more detailed and more concise. Next is the limitation. And the thing to remember is always acknowledge that the study has limitations, specifically in social science research. What are limitations? These are problems, circumstances, or influences that may arise which the researcher cannot control. So ito yung mga technical and non-technical reasons why ang scope mo ay ganun lang kahaba. Kailangan mong i-mention bakit ito lang ang iyong kinover. Dahil nang meron akong limitation with regards to, for example, data or methodology or number of respondents, kaya i-mention mo ang limitation. So limitations are restrictions on your methodology and conclusions. Why? Because once you set up your scope and the limitations, it would explain more clearly the context of the findings of your research. So these are anything that might influence the results of your study. Yun ang limitation. Kaya itong dalawang ito ay ni-specify natin kapag nagagawa tayo ng research study. Kasi syempre, life and human beings and human behavior, it's very, very complex. You cannot discuss everything and anything about a particular aspect of human behavior, for example. Kaya, kailangan mong i-specify, okay, ang pag-aaralan ko lang ay ganito, at hindi ko isasama itong aspetong ito dahil ng ... Okay? We'll give an example later on. So, the scope and limitation are two different things. Hindi ibig sabihin na mention mo na ang scope, understood na nandoon na ang limitation. No. The scope is the coverage, while the limitation are the ones that you did not include for one reason or another. Okay, some guide questions to help you out. For the scope, you can ask this question: what will be the objective of your study? Or what is the main goal of your study? What will be the subject matter, topics and issues you are going to have for your particular paper? Where will you go to obtain necessary data for your study, and how are you going to do it? Yun, may scope ka na. Okay? So answer these questions regarding your paper and you would have specifically and concisely stated your scope of the study. Here, this can also be part of your scope. How many respondents are you going to have, and where will you find them, and how long would it take you to finish the paper? Pwede rin yung isama sa scope. Okay? And then this one also can be included. Would it be a long-term or a short-term study? Pwede mo rin ilagay sa scope yan. Now, answer all of these questions and you have a very comprehensive scope discussion of your paper. Okay? Now, with regards to the limitations of your research, ito naman ang tatandaan. Be sure to describe each limitation in detail, but concise terms. Okay? Explain why each limitation exists. For example, when you mentioned that the limitation is the number of respondents taken for the research. Why did you have, like, for example, 25 respondents lamang? Explain mo kung bakit. Ang limitation kamo ng study mo is you were able to gather information through primary survey from 25 managers in the fast food industry. So, you limited it lang to managers with 5 years work experience. Yan. Kailangan mo ngayon explain bakit ang scope mo kanina ay yung 25 dami. And then, ang limitation mo, explain mo bakit at 25 at bakit 5 years lang work experience ang in-include mo. Explain mo kasi kapag lesser than 5 years, baka hindi masyadong marami pang experience sa decision making or operational managerial skills. Kaya gusto mo, sinisigurado mo na 5 years na ang work experience niya, without any doubt, mas marami na experience yon. So, kumbaga, sinabi mo ang scope. The scope would be who are you interviewing, and binention mo ang limitation na yun lang mga 5 taon pataas ang iyong i-interviewin. And then explain mo naman bakit. Okay? Provide the reasons why each limitation could not be overcome using your methods chosen and to gather the data. Okay? Assess the impact of each limitation in relation to the overall findings and conclusion of the study, and if appropriate, describe how these limitations could point to the need for further research. Okay? What if, for example, you're trying to study teachers in the public school, and you want to have both analysis of male and female teaching strategies. Okay? Pero dun sa scope mo, which is let's say Batangas City, ay walang lalaking teacher ng English, for example. Kunwari lang. Then sasabihin mo ng limitation mo ay puro perspective lang ito ng mga babae dahil nga walang male teachers in your particular district. So, that is beyond your control, na walang lalaking faculty teaching English. Okay? So, I hope you understood that. Ang scope for that particular example is that the research is about teaching strategies of teachers, and it will only be from the perspective of female teachers. Yun ang scope. Anong limitation? It will not have any data or information coming from male teachers because in Batangas City, there are no male teachers in English, for example. Okay? So kapag ang limitation ay hindi mo makontrol, then that affects your overall results. Why? Dahil na kung i-apply yung particular model mo, for example, na tinetest sa ibang region o sa ibang city na may babae at lalaki, of course there'll be varying results from your own results since iisang gender yung iyong napag-aralan. Okay, so these are some limitations that can come up in your study. Example lang ito. Sample size, kuminsan napakaliit o kokonti. Ang self-reported data would be the ones na, let's say, you conducted a focus group or a one-to-one interview. So, you would only rely on really what your focus group participants said dahil wala kang ibang pwedeng pagkakuhanan ng actual na data. Lack of available or reliable data. O ito malaking concern ito sometimes sa mga countries na hindi maganda ang statistical system, statistical gathering of data. Dito sa Pilipinas, more or less, maganda naman yung mga data na nakukuha natin na secondary kasi maganda yung ating statistical office at statistical systems. Pero hindi maiiwasan na kung minsan ay hindi available ang data. Kaya, gagawa ka ng paraan para makakuha whatever is available. Okay? Sometimes, another limitation would be the measure used to collect the data. And these kinds of methodologies ay kuminsan hindi masyadong tested dahil lang hindi naman yung karaniwang ginagamit pero yun ang pinaka-appropriate para sa iyong paper. So, you would have to mention these statements as your limitation. Okay? So, hopefully, when you review this video, ay makagawa kayo ng magandang scope and limitation. How long should it be? For an undergraduate paper, again, 1.5 to 2 pages discussion is, I think, enough. Thank you.